Okay, today we're going to take a look at the word ratio in math and what it means, and give you a little general understanding of what ratio is, and then we're going to practice writing ratios and then reducing them in lowest terms. So first of all, we want to know that a ratio is a comparison of two numbers. Just two simple numbers, and it can be written in three different ways. You can write a ratio using the word to, or you can write it with a colon, or you can write it as a fraction. I'm just going to draw the fraction bar here. So there's three different ways that you can write it. Typically, you're going to see it as a fraction, and that's how we're going to practice it in this little mini lesson. One thing to remember is that when you are writing ratios, you always want to write them, or write it, I should say, in the same order that the problem presents it. And we'll get to that in just a moment. And finally, you want to make sure that you are reducing them to lowest terms, just like a fraction. And that's where, if you write them as a fraction, it's much easier to remember to reduce them. So let's take a look at a ratio, and let's say that you're playing softball and during the summer, and you won 6 games, so 6 games you won, and you lost 2 games. So you won 6 and you had 2 losses. If we want to write the ratio in terms of won to lost, like how many games you won versus how many games you lost, you would set it up, and it's much easier sometimes to first set up the ratio as a fraction and use the words, and if we're writing it won to loss, let's put the 1 on top, loss on the bottom. That way, as we're substituting the numbers, we know that where those numbers go. So we won 6 and we lost 2. So we're writing the ratio in terms of won to loss. So we have 6 over 2, and then we have to remember to reduce it. Now normally, if we're reducing a fraction, we would simply put a 3, and it would be reduced to 3. But because we're writing a ratio, we need to make sure that there is a number in the bottom, because remember, we're comparing two numbers. So the ratio of games that we won to games that we lost was 6 to 2, which was reduced then to 3 to 1. So that's a ratio. Let's take a look at another one. Let's say we're comparing money, and we are going to, let's say, compare $16 to $4. Okay, 16 to 4. As we remember, we could write it 3 ways. So let's first write it all 3 ways, and then let's reduce it doing that. So 16 to 4, we've already written it one way because we've used the word to. We could write it using a colon, so 16 to 4. But you'll notice that when we write it using the word to, and we write it using a colon, it doesn't remind us that we need to simplify it. So it's much easier if we write it as a fraction. So we're going to write it as $16 over $4, which will remind us that this could be simplified to $4 over $1. Let's try one more. Let's say that we're in the sales business, and we have 35 customers for every 7 sales. Okay, so we want to write the ratio in terms of customers to sales. So let's first, I'm just going to abbreviate this. So we've got customers to sales, and we're going to write that as a fraction. And now we can substitute our numbers in. So 35 customers for every 7 sales. And again, we want to go ahead and reduce that, and we know that 35 divided by 7 is 5. So we have 5 customers for every 1 sale, and so that's our answer. Let's go ahead and circle that. Let's go back and circle our $4 to $1. So hopefully this has given you just a little sense of what ratio is. It's comparing 2 numbers, and 3 ways that you can write it. You can use the word to, a colon, or a fraction. Always remember that you want to write the ratio the way that the problem is stating it. And then after you're done writing it, you want to make sure that you're reducing it to lowest terms.